Hey everybody, Homeslice Henry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some very fun battles in the Great League featuring the Spooky Theme team. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. The Spooky Theme team features Zweilous on the lead, Haunter as the safe switch, and Gengar as the closer. This is an extremely glassy team, but despite that fact, this trainer is able to have some very nice sets. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out the Spooky Theme team in action in the Great League. Hopping into the first match, sending Zweilous into Galarian Stunfisk. He's gonna save switch into Haunter to check and see if the opponent has any good counters to ghost types in the back. G-Fisk stays in, fires off a Rock Slide, Haunter is forced to shield, and then the opponent responds with Altaria. These Dragon Breaths are doing massive damage, but Haunter has a ton of energy. Haunter able to land the Sludge Bomb and going to fire off the Shadow Punch. This is gonna take out the Altaria if they decide not to shield. They let it go, and down goes Altaria. In comes Galarian Stunfisk, but it's not able to farm down before Haunter reaches one final Shadow Punch. Haunter able to win switch advantage and get back the shield as well. In comes Zweilous. Zweilous is better able to take a hit than Gengar, so it does make sense to bring in the Zweilous, basically just to absorb damage. G-Fisk goes for the Rock Slide. They're going to be firing off a second Rock Slide as well. Zweilous able to tank it, and in comes Gengar. But the unfortunate thing is that this G-Fisk is going to be able to outpace here. Fires off the Rock Slide, gets the shield, G-Fisk farms up, and in the back it is Swampert. Gengar farming up and going straight for the kill shot. Going for the Shadow Ball, but Swampert commits the shield, and Swampert is going to fire off the Hydro Cannon. Swampert did not overfarm a lot here though, so Zweilous may be able to clutch this. Zweilous overfarms as much as it can and goes for the Dark Pulse. This needs the KO. It does. In comes G-Fisk. Zweilous able to reach the Body Slam on very low HP. Body Slam takes down the G-Fisk, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, sending Zweilous into Shadow Ninetales, a great lead. Opponent safe switches into a Walrein, and this is a pretty big issue. Walrein with an energy lead beats this entire team. So all Walrein has to do is double shield in this matchup, and Walrein is going to be able to win switch advantage. Haunter goes for the KO with a Sludge Bomb, but the Walrein does respect it with a shield, and that ends up being a CMP tie. Haunter, trying to get shields down, is going to commit the final shield. Haunter should be able to get the final shield off of the Walrein, but then you're left with a very glassy Pokemon in Gengar, and a Pokemon that takes super effective damage from Icicle Spears in Zweilous. Icicle Spear takes down the Haunter. I think you kind of have to bring in the Gengar here. They are going to be bringing in the Gengar, farms up, switches into Zweilous to absorb the Icicle Spear damage. It's super effective, but Zweilous is going to be able to tank it. Back in comes the Ninetales. Ninetales farming up, but Zweilous able to reach the Dark Pulse. This will do massive damage, nearly taking out the Ninetales, and Ninetales is going to fire off a Weather Ball. Weather Ball will be enough to take out the Zweilous, but this will give Gengar an even bigger energy lead. We know the Walrein doesn't have a lot of energy. We still don't know what is in the back. Opponent is going to bring in the Walrein. Gengar gets the farm down in the back. It's a Trevenant, and that will be game over. Shadow Ball vanquishes the Trevenant, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Zweilous into Jellicent, a very nice lead. Opponent immediately save switches into a Primeape, and they're going to respond with Haunter. Haunter is triple resisting the counters here, which is quite nice, but one Night Slash would do massive damage, so Haunter kind of has to shield everything that Primeape throws. Haunter fires off the Shadow Punch, gets the shield, but Primeape is able to fire off another Night Slash. Tough call to make, choosing to let it go, giving up switch advantage, but may be able to farm down with the Gengar here. Waits the timer, in comes Gengar. Gengar is just able to farm down and leaves with a ton of energy. In comes Jellicent. Gengar, no baits here, going straight for the Shadow Ball, able to take down the Jellicent, and in the back is Scrafty. Gengar goes for the Shadow Ball, and it appears to be a CMP tie to the foul play. Shadow Ball does massive resisted damage, and at this point, I think you just let the Gengar go, and you should be able to farm down with Zweilous. In comes Zweilous, looking for the Dragon Breath down. Scrafty goes for the power-up punch, but Zweilous still has the shield. Zweilous shields up, able to farm down, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a terrible lead, Zweilous into Medicham, immediate save switch, this time into Gengar, and the opponent responds with a Shadow Nidoqueen. This is by no means a good counter to Gengar, especially if they go straight Poison Fang. Gengar able to tank the damage and is going to be firing off a Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch gets the shield, and there's a warning, only 15% battery left, but should be enough to finish out the match. Goes for Shadow Punch number 2, gets the shield, and it's a CMP tied to the second Poison Fang. Gengar can very safely shield up, farm up to the Shadow Punch, and will be able to take switch advantage and shield advantage from the Nidoqueen. Shadow Punch takes down the Nidoqueen. Opponent brings in their final Pokemon, which is Scrafty, but Gengar still not done, able to reach a last second Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does massive damage, and I think at this point, you just bring in Zweilous basically just to sack it, and then rely on Haunter to try and close out the match. In comes Zweilous, switch! Oh my goodness, did they catch the power-up punch? Yes, they did! What a catch! And able to plug in the phone as well. Multitasking game on point. Haunter shields up the foul play, overfarms quite a bit, a very nice catch by the opponent, able to catch the Shadow Punch onto Medicham. But Haunter is still in a dominating spot because that Scrafty is not at a foul play yet. Haunter farms up, going to be firing off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch undercharges, and they're able to reach a last second move. Ice Punch onto the Haunter, not enough to KO. Haunter farms down, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a dream lead, Zweilous into Hypno. Opponent will immediately save switch into Alolan Marowak, which is going to be met with Haunter. Haunter is able to apply massive damage with these Shadow Claws, but needs to shield everything that Marowak throws. Haunter farms up and now has the back-to-back Shadow Punches. Going to be firing off the first Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch gets the shield and able to fire off the second. Marowak has the double shield if they want to keep it alive, and they do. Haunter trying to farm down. I believe Haunter will be able to, but deciding to let it go and instead choosing to get shield advantage for the Gengar. At this point, bring in the Gengar, get the energy lead, and now they can't really bring in the Hypno, because if they do, Hypno's going to get Shadow Balled. In comes the Hypno, actually banks energy, brings in Zweilous, and in the back, it is Jellicent. So the opponent's team is absolutely core broken by Zweilous. Dark Pulse, massive damage onto the Jellicent, and going to be letting this go, not respecting the Ice Beam, and it's the Ice Beam! Oh no! But should still be in an okay spot here. All you have to do is just get this Body Slam off, because Gengar does have a Shadow Punch loaded, and Gengar will of course be winning CMP. Zweilous fires off the Body Slam, that is easily Shadow Punch range. Hypno able to farm down, but it does not matter. Gengar going for the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch taking down the Hypno, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Zweilous into Pelipper. This is a very nice lead. Pelipper has to farm all the way up to a Hurricane if they want to do any meaningful amount of damage, and by the time they get there, they'll have taken massive Dragon Breath damage. Zweilous fires off the Body Slam, Pelipper farming up, and I believe this is close to enough for a Hurricane. Zweilous shields it up, unfortunately ends up shielding a Weather Ball bait, but Pelipper not going to be able to make it to a Hurricane, just going to fire off a Weather Ball. Zweilous tanks the damage, farms down, and leaves with a ton of energy for whatever's in back, which ends up being a Nidoqueen. Zweilous going straight for the Dark Pulse, gets a shield, and going to save switch into Haunter. Haunter farming up a ton of energy. I believe this is enough for the Earth Power. Haunter calls the bait, and it's a Poison Fang. What a read. In the back, it's Venusaur, and if this game wasn't over already, it is now. Sludge Bomb taking care of the Venusaur, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Zweilous into another Galarian Stunfisk. Same game plan as last time, immediate save switch into Haunter to check and see if the opponent has a good response to a Ghost type. And by the opponent staying in with G-Fisk, it looks like they do not. Opponent goes for the Rock Slide. Haunter has to shield everything in this matchup, but Haunter able to reach the back-to-back Shadow Punches. Fires off the first, gets the shield, fires off the second, and it appears to be a CMP tie as well. Shadow Punch would not be enough to KO, but the opponent still does respect it with a shield, choosing to let the Haunter go, and instead save the shield for the Gengar in the endgame. Waits the switch clock, brings in Zweilous. Opponent safe switches into their Defense Deoxys, which is going to be met with Gengar. Gengar does need to respect the Psycho Boost, as that would do massive damage. Gengar can safely overfarm by 5 Shadow Claws here, and then fire off the Shadow Ball on the CMP tie, because Gengar has a way higher attack stat than Defense Deoxys. In the back is Trevenant. Oh my goodness, things looking good for a potential Gengar sweep. Gengar goes for the Shadow Punch, down goes Trevenant, in comes the G-Fisk, not going to try for the Shadow Ball, opts to go for the Shadow Punch instead. Shadow Punch does some nice chip damage, in comes Zweilous, and Zweilous just needs to get to the Body Slam. G-Fisk goes for the Earthquake, that gets Zweilous low. Zweilous able to reach the Body Slam, and that will be game over. Zweilous taking down the G-Fisk, and that is a good game. Hopping into the final match, leading Zweilous into Jellicent. So long as they don't have Ice Beam, this is a fantastic lead. They're staying in and going for a Bubble Beam, meaning they do not have access to Ice Beam. Zweilous tanks the Bubble Beam, opponent safe switches into Cresselia, and in comes Haunter. This is not enough for a Future Sight, so Haunter should be able to tank this, but even a resisted Grass Knot still does massive damage. Haunter fires out the Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb does get the shield from Cresselia. Cresselia is going to be able to farm down. Cresselia does leave with quite a bit of energy, but those Shadow Claws did massive damage. In comes Gengar. Cresselia is going to be firing off a move. They go for the Moonblast. Gengar does commit the shield. Gengar should be able to overfarm in this matchup. Looks for the farm down, but not quite able to get there. Cresselia able to reach one final Moonblast, and that does a ton of damage to Gengar. In the back is Bastiodon, and things are honestly not looking good here. Goes for the Shadow Ball, able to land it, fires off the last second Shadow Punch. Really needs to be able to get the shield here from the Bastiodon, and gets the shield. That's huge. Back in comes Jellicent, and Zweilous is going straight for the Dark Pulse. This is going to be doing massive super effective damage, taking out the Jellicent, and now it's all up to Zweilous. Can Zweilous take out Bastiodon? Bastiodon fires off the Stone Edge. Zweilous commits the shield. Zweilous farms up and is going for the Dark Pulse, and I believe this should be enough. Dark Pulse taking down the Bastiodon, and that is a good game. All in all, some incredibly fun battles featuring the spooky theme team in the Great League. These battles prove that even if it's not necessarily Halloween, we all could use a little bit of spookiness in our lives. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been Home Slice Henry.